Pretty excited about this week's podcast. Got Troy Thompson, and I've got to read this, mate, because this new role you've got takes 4 pages. Senior Manager of Elite Performance and Programs. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. But we're going to talk World Cup.
That makes 2 of us, mate. Really excited for this podcast. Good to see you again.
Let's rip in.
Welcome to the Body Science Podcast. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent, or manage any injury, disease, or other health-related condition.
Welcome to Body Science HQ, World of Fit, Happy, Healthy, and it's all about footy this week. We're going to talk World Cup, and we've got the man in himself who is... Are you the main guy that's got to get players over to play the World Cup? Is that pretty much what programs means?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say I'm the main man. There's one big fella, the 13th Immortal. He sort of oversees it all.
Little mention, yeah,
exactly right. But definitely really big part of my role is those elite programs, which mainly encompasses the Kangaroos, but also our Gillaroos, our women's program, which is great to see rugby league in the women's space really evolving as well. So I
hung around for the Titans game the other day. Hey, they do some big hits in that game.
The quality of footy there, mate, is just outstanding. And it's great to see how that's progressing over the last couple of years. The growth and improvement in such a short space of time has been outstanding.
Yeah, it's epic. It's epic. But mate, we're going to talk. Normally we talk about the sports science side of things. I thought what we might do today is talk about, it's really hard to put a team together and take a team to another country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I thought nobody does it better than you guys.
Certainly something that we try and pride ourselves on. Try and pride ourselves on that. It is getting really hard to pull the players together in a rep situation just because they do it so well at clubland these days, So exactly. To try and provide a unique experience, particularly is one of our goals with the Australian programs. It's the pinnacle of the sport, and everyone strives to pull on that Aussie jersey if they're eligible for Australia. We're seeing a great surgence of players that are eligible for other nations, but certainly from a Kangaroos point of view, we believe that it is the pinnacle of the sport. It's what as an individual, it's the highest honour you can get. Obviously there's the great team efforts of winning premierships and winning games, but as a player to be deemed the best player in your position at that point in time is certainly something special. So we try to make sure that that's emulated in everything we do and give them an experience that's unlike anything they've ever done. So a World Cup in England certainly ticks that box straight off. There'll be a lot of players there that haven't travelled overseas before, but certainly the planning and preparation for that takes months and months, and you think you've got everything covered, and then something else pops up that you have to tick off. So yeah, lots involved, mate.
Are you still getting a lot of COVID issues in that space from a planning perspective?
It's certainly at the top of our list and at the forefront of our minds. The players are still testing daily within their club settings. We've introduced protocols and ensured there was protocols through Pacific tests in the middle of the year, through Origin camps as well. And it's just that close nature of that camp environment that probably lends its hand to high infection rates as well. Just the fact that the players are together all the time, they're not actually going home and spending some time at home. They're in that same environment all the time. So cross-contamination is certainly a real issue. And as we see government and public health orders lessen, it's still a concern for us, not only COVID, but influenza and other sort of infectious diseases, to ensure that doesn't rip through a camp and can certainly derail a program as well. So while there may not be formalised protocols by the World Cup or by the UK, we'll certainly be looking at processes and procedures to ensure the safety of our players and staff through that campaign.
And how many players do you take away with you?
24 players will be on the plane, and then we'll have a support staff of around 14 to help with their transition across there. Obviously, again, going back to that camp environment, the care for the players is 24/7. We're looking after every one of their meals. The physio and rehab is quite intense, and then obviously, looking at training in different environments as well, having the specialised coaches to ensure that they get used to that and understand what's going on. So a squad of about 38 that we have to get on a plane and feed and house for a period of 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So it's a long time away from families and friends, and as I sort of mentioned there, a lot of the players have never been to the north of England at that time of year. So playing on short fields, predominantly they're soccer fields or football fields over there. So some of the 10-metre lines are about 7 or 8 metres. So your total length of a field's about 90 metres. So certainly makes a difference to your possession, your field position and yardage sets, and then the kicks on the end of them as well. So just factors like that a lot of those players that they just wouldn't have experienced before. So it's really important for us to ensure that we're exposing those players to those environments prior to their matches, and so they're used to working out. And again, we're really fortunate to have people like Mel Meninga and Michael Hagan on our coaching staff that have played over there and they understand the conditions. We've got Adrian Lamb as part of our staff. He's coaching in England at the moment, so he understands those environments. So it was a really big factor in our preparation and our ideas around how we train them and when we train them as well. So, we look to mix things up a little bit there around what we do training-wise compared to what they're doing at Clubland at the moment.
Yeah, nice. And mate, do you base yourself in one space over that 7 weeks, or have you got your footballs everywhere and you've really got to play the game?
Yeah, it's the Rugby League World Cup. They're still calling it Rugby League World Cup 21, even though it's been played in 22. But obviously, prior to COVID, as the business that they went out to each different city and got them to bid to host nations. So we're based in Manchester. Mm-hmm. So our home base hotel in there in Manchester will be there for the entire time, and we'll do some short overnight trips to different locations. So we've got play our first game in Leeds. So just with the traffic over there in England, you just never know how long it's going to take to get to somewhere. So we'll spend the evening before the first match in Leeds, and then we've got a game in Coventry as well. So we'll do the same thing. So satellite games with home base in Manchester.
And so as an elite athlete, for those people that don't know, are the guys getting their own rooms? Are they sharing? How does it play out?
Yeah, definitely something that Mel's really tried to implement as well since he's taken over from the program.
7 weeks together is a long time.
It is, yeah, and you sort of that's one of the biggest challenges, is providing an environment that balances out their training and their downtime and individual time as well. So fortunate enough that we have the support of the commission to put the players into individual rooms.
Yeah, that's good.
And it was certainly sort of considered when the COVID situation was a lot worse as well. So players and staff and through NRL and Origin series this year have been in individual rooms. So maintaining that process is really important to us from that factor. But as you said, what we've probably looked at as well from a performance perspective and is those sleep cycles and the routines of players. It's probably something that people don't really think about. But if you're not getting the roomies right, you might have somebody that likes staying up watching TV till late at night just due to their circadian rhythms and their natural sort of routines. Some might have family back home and the time zone differences there when they're trying to get on the phone and have their chats. So there's a lot of work involved in that. So having individual rooms certainly helps with their ability to get their right rest and recovery and stick to their routines as well.
Yeah, nice. Who organises the daily run sheet? Is that the right word to use?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like our schedules, we got a weekly and a daily schedule.
Have you got experts in place in this, or is that something you just go, well, my name's here, I'll do it?
Yeah, it's certainly a team. It's a team decision, from our staffing perspective. So we'll have the coach that has his desires. We've got strength and conditioning coaches that need to ensure that we've got the right preparation for the players from a strength and conditioning point of view. So it's a lifting and gym sessions. The physios need to get their rehab and recovery in. As I said, the coaches with their field sessions, the recovery post session. Then we've got nutrition that has to go in there as well. And then, there's certainly that consideration around entertainment for the players, ensuring that they're not getting bored. Eating the same hotel meal for 7 weeks. Everyone thinks that's exciting, but eating out of Bain Marie's for that long becomes quite tedious and boring as well. So trying to mix those things up. So it's definitely, we consult with the staff and also with the senior players about how they want to train, and even putting together the weekly schedule is probably a little bit different now. We're seeing a real shift in the way that the athletes are preparing at Clubland. So some clubs will be training for the 2 days prior to a game. Others will have a rest day in there. So trying to work out what's going to be the best preparation for this particular tournament while still taking into account the usual routines of the players is a bit of a tricky situation. So it's all about communication there, experience from what us as coaches have seen, and then also the players have experienced in their time as well. So working out how the week works leading into the team it's quite a complex. It's a jigsaw. We've only got so many hours in each week. So, trying to work on the best way to prepare them for that game where we want them at their peak is a puzzle, and having the input of everyone is really, really important.
So how do you go about, obviously a club's got the facilities it needs to run its high performance programs.
Yep.
So you've got rehab, recovery, gym, and you're staying in a hotel.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my head around, how does this all happen? How do you are you building your own recovery centres, or what are you, I know that sounds stupid.
No, it doesn't sound silly at all. Definitely, if you have the space and resources and funds to do that, it's certainly been considered. And, it's probably, we talk back to the COVID days where we had the hub set up here and in the beautiful Gold Coast. We built gyms, purpose-built gyms for that exact reason, because
Kat told me became quite an expert at building gyms.
Yeah, exactly right. Players and staff there, couldn't leave the hotel, particularly for that first 2 weeks when we moved them up there. So it's certainly I think moving forward it's going to be the way of the future. The problem with England is there's a lot of people and a lot of buildings and a lot of space.
Yeah, exactly.
So being able to build your own facilities is a little bit difficult. We're really fortunate in the hotel hotel we're at, we try to tick off as many boxes as we can. So to your point there, recovery, we chose a hotel that had a pool in it. So we requested that so that the players can do their recovery there.
Sessions,
yeah. In terms of a team room, we try to get a hotel that had big team space so that we can do our physio and rehab on site.
Yep.
But then we're also conscious about traveling as well. So every time you go and do a session, you've got to get on a bus. So, there's travel time and that impacts player wellbeing and the physical status of them as well. So we try to minimise travel. So finding locations where we can go and do a gym session, meetings, meals, and then a field session without having come back to the hotel is what we're looking for. So we were able to duck over to England there for a week a couple of months ago and just have a look at all of that logistical piece. So we know exactly what we've got in each of the different locations. We can plan our sessions. So it all sort of works in together to try to work out each day and plan each day as much as we can. So yeah, it is difficult, and that's part of the logistical challenges that we have.
And is the NRL, I mean, you're going over as the ARL, that's correct? NRL, ARL?
Yeah, commission. Yeah, the commission employs us really.
Yeah. Are you guys giving feedback to other countries like Tonga, etc., where obviously I assume there's a lot smaller base of...
Yeah, look, I think... probably not for us.
Yep.
We obviously have a really good relationship with a lot of the staff at those other nations. Yep. We lean on each other a little bit about different ways that they're going about certain aspects of their preparation and travel. The World Cup organising committee is really useful for each of those. So, England, surprise, have probably got the best facility over there. So they're staying at a country club which has a field on site and a gym on site, so they're not going to have to travel a lot. But that's okay, home ground advantage.
Exactly.
They're entitled to that. So, but I know the Rugby League World Cup organising committee has been really helpful with those other nations. They identify their needs as well and try to work within the resources and the remit that they have with them as well. So,
because a lot of those players come back to your game again, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And the great thing about this, and the international game and the minimum standards and the environments that those other nations are providing their teams now is improving out of sight, and it's really good to see. And we've seen a lot of players putting their hands up to play for their nations of heritage, whether it be Tonga or Samoa or Fiji. It's great for international footy.
It is really good, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the big thing that that we can do as a commission and as a game is really ensure those minimum standards for all of those nations are up to standard, and we're bringing them up to our level so that those players are looked after. Because exactly as you said, the makeup of our playing group across the board is really diverse now, and it's a real credit to those Pacific nations and the types of players they're producing. So having them strong in an international space is great for the game of rugby league.
Yeah, nice. So, mate, continuing on that chat about running a team overseas for 7 weeks.
Yep.
How do you get the boys over there?
Yeah, it's actually one of the parts of the trip that I really enjoy putting together, and the team in terms of the staff really enjoy sort of bringing together as well. So we think about we're heading over to the other side of the world where we've got to transition across quite a number of time zones. Been fortunate enough to travel with a few teams overseas now and tried a few different bits and pieces, but a few key considerations we have to look at is obviously the exposure to light, ensuring they've got enough food and nutrition on board, the hydration piece as well, and then we're in an environment as well that's highly susceptible to infections as well. So looking at some of those pieces, but the preparation to move them over to England actually starts probably a couple of days before we start going. So we tend to get the players to stay up later at night, sleep in early the next day. So we're starting to transition our training sessions to a similar sort of time that we'll be doing them in England, just to help with that decrease of injuries or the risk of injury. So trying to mitigate that factor. So when we're on the plane, we've looked at things at manipulating the light. So if you jump on the plane as a commercial, a normal sort of affair, then you'll be served your meal at the times that the airlines thinks right. So what we try and do is really have a chat to the cabin crew there, ask them to turn lights on and off at different times, feed the players and staff when we want to do it. We implement, ensuring that they've got the right compression on. Hence Body Science is our great partner there with the compression. We look at little devices that help actually increase blood flow. We're partnering with a company that actually has some glasses that block out blue and green light as well. So
nice.
a couple of little processes that we can put in place there to ensure that's happening. Ensuring that hydration is right is a big one. And then, as I said, with the high chance of infection on the plane as well, ensuring that we've got nasal sprays to keep the nasal mucosa moist and free of those sort of germs as well. So it's a really cool process that we can get them over there, and the players actually really buy into it as well, because they understand that there's been some real thought into it. And then when we land on the other side, the same sort of thing. So we've got to really be careful with the first couple of training sessions that we have on the field, because they're obviously really a high risk of soft tissue injuries there. So ensuring that we're exposing them to cryotherapy, getting them moving without going too crazy with it, but then also ensuring that they're ready to go from the other end. So having a look at a lot of their wellness, how they're sleeping, how they've actually transitions, because what we've seen in the past is some players do it really well and some really struggle and take 2, 3, 4 days to actually transition across those time zones. So yeah, as I said, really starting early, a couple of days beforehand, trying to change the sleep patterns, manipulating the environment and services on the aeroplane, and then also ensuring that their transition once we get over there is spot on before we get right into it.
I've got to ask a big question. How helpful are the airlines when it comes to that?
It really depends. It really depends on the type of crew you get and the pilots. So yeah, look, generally they help out as much as they can. Obviously, they've got a job to do as well. So
absolutely, yeah.
We try to tip them up a little bit before they get on and try and get through that process. So no, they're generally pretty good.
Yeah, nice. Mate, without talking like straight dollars, what's it cost to take a team to, are we in the millions here?
Yeah.
So it's millions of dollars to take someone on. Australia's lucky. We got a lot of sport backing investment. How do these other countries get over there?
Yeah, a lot of it's funded by the Rugby League World Cup.
Okay.
So that's the upside of a tournament like this. So, they provide you with a certain amount for each of your meals. They cover the accommodation. They cover a certain level of travel. Yeah. So they cover it up to a certain component, and then it's just whatever the nations want to be able to do on top of that is where the additional dollars have to come from. So yeah, it can be quite tough, and just ensuring that the players have the best facilities within the resources you have is probably the biggest challenge.
And we're talking how many games over that? I mean, if you get to the finals.
Yeah, so there's 3 pool games. Yep. So you're guaranteed playing 3 games. So they're all set out now. So we obviously know who we're playing and where we're playing. Then we move into a quarterfinal, semi-final, and then hopefully onto a final. So, but as I mentioned before, it's going to be probably the most competitive Rugby League World Cup in history, just given the number of players that have indicated that they're going to play for some of those second tier nations. Yep. So it's going to be exciting times, and fingers crossed we play the 6 games, mate, and get to hold that trophy aloft at Old Trafford on the 19th of November.
That's pretty special to hear that. So looking at 24 players.
24 players, yeah.
So if you get injuries, are you allowed to bring new people in, or is it the contracted 24 players and that's it?
Yeah, it's a little bit different for this World Cup. So in 2017, for those people listening, they might remember Jake Trbojevic actually tore his pec in the first game against England, so the opening match there. So the rules were that once you picked your 24, that was it. So we lost Jakey first game, and the organising committee made a decision that they were sticking to that. So they didn't allow a replacement player. Yep. This year's, I think, is going to be a little bit different, just given the fact that COVID is still around. So yeah, there will be a possibility to bring in some replacement players, which again presents some challenges in itself as well. So we just have to sort of work through that. But yeah, generally speaking, they like you to keep it at 24. We'll certainly have to go through a process and apply for, special consideration to be able to bring players in should they have a long-term injury or suffer from COVID.
Yeah, okay. And physio doc are obviously in the group that go over. So if someone tears a pec or something serious in that space, are surgeries done locally, or are you flying players back? How do you guys manage that? Yeah,
we've got some of the best staff in the game. I'll give them a rap. We've got Sammy Madden, we've got Steve Sartori and Chris Ball as our doctor and physios. They've both been, all 3 of them have been involved with the Australian team for quite a number of years and are really experienced with that. And probably one of the highlights and benefits of having those guys on board is they've got a really good relationship with a lot of the club's medical and performance staff as well. So it's generally a decision that's made between, at the end of the day, they're contracted with the NRL clubs. It's up to the discretion of the clubs there to make a decision. Yeah, absolutely. So, we try to facilitate that. In most cases, if there was to be a major surgery, we'd get them back to Australia and have them operated on by the people and the surgeons that they know and trust and understand. Going back to 2016, we had one of the players do an ACL. So the biggest thing for that was to try and get the swelling down and ensure that he was able to have a safe trip back to Australia. And at the request of the club, they got the surgery done afterwards. So yeah, again, it just really depends. Like if it's a minor injury, if it's something that we think we could scope, week 1 and have them ready for the back end of the final, then we'd certainly look at those. It's a real case by case management piece, but we definitely include and involve the club that they're contracted with and ensure that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, nice. I think that's a really good insight to taking a team overseas. I mean, do you take ex-players over to mentor?
Well, I mean, part of our coaching staff has a lot of ex-players on there, so you sort of get that.
A few names that I've heard before.
Yeah, you get the idea that, and as I said there, it's really important for this trip. It's quite unique in that a lot of these players won't have ever been to England at all, let alone, played football over there. So ensuring that they understand what those conditions are and telling some old stories in the history. Mel's really, really big on, honouring the people that came before us and leaving the jersey in a better space as well. So ensuring that, they're doing the right thing by the Kangaroos jersey and honouring that all of the obligations and behaviours and expectations around that is really important for him as well. So I have no doubt there'll be plenty of ex-players over there because I think everyone's looking for a junket to get some sort of supporters tour on there. So,
that's what you need.
Yeah, exactly right. So I'm sure, I don't know, somebody like an Alan Langer or someone like that might pop up in the dressing shed or a meal at some stage. But yeah, there's certainly, I think there's a fair bit of excitement about this. International footy's back on the calendar, and it's been a 3-year hiatus for us as a Kangaroos team. It was great to see the Pacific Nations play some outstanding footy in the middle of the year. It was really exciting. I think it's been a really good taster for us to promote the World Cup for the back end of the year. We've got men's, we've got women's, and we've got the wheelchair team over there. So Australia's fortunate enough to have 3 teams represented over there. And if you get a chance to watch those wheelchair guys go around, it's just pretty special. And obviously, the female space is growing. And
how's that on the world stage? Is that growing on the world stage as well?
The women's space? Yeah, absolutely. I think I can't talk to it with any much authority, but speaking to the coaches and performance and medical staff that are involved with the women's space, they're really happy with the way the international footy. There's some nations over there that are really strong over in Europe. So I think it's going to be a really competitive World Cup across all 3 competitions.
Right. And before we hang the boots up, what does a day look like for you on tour?
For staff, I'll tell you where we start. The players wake up, they'll have to input their wellness score, so we've got an idea of that. They give us So we ask them to give us a urine sample every morning to check their hydration. So we're testing that. Breakfast, then we're generally into strapping and preparation for a training session, into the meetings with coaches and staff, travel to a training field, run the training session, pull down the GPS data off the back of that, debrief with the coaches, we're into lunch, and then we'll usually have a session in the afternoon, whether that's a weight session or another skill session. Then we're into dinner and then massage generally afterwards, and then just a bit of debrief and get ready to go again the next day. So the camp situations are generally are pretty full on for the staff. There's lots to do, and we try to build in some downtime, but it's pretty full on, mate.
Yeah, it is. Well, mate, I hope the boys bring home the trophy. Thanks for coming on board again. It's always great to talk to you, and just love being part of your team. I think it's probably 10 years now.
Oh, yeah, mate. So great. And
10 years plus.
We appreciate your support. You guys are fantastic in the products that you've got, and just knowing that everything's safe to give to the players as well just makes one job a lot easier for us. So appreciate your ongoing support.
Forever. It's all good. Thanks for coming on board.
Cheers.